am Lakshmi Prasanna, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So in this session, we will discuss about the course description on outcome-based education. So in this, we will cover how we have written the course objectives and course outcomes, and how these course outcomes should be mapped with the PO, that is program outcomes, which says COPO mapping. So in this session, we are going to cover the topics like what is outcome-based education and Bloom's taxonomy, and discussion on course description, course objectives, course outcomes, program outcomes, and how we make this COPO mapping, that is a course outcome and program outcome mapping. First, so here why we are going for this outcome based education means, so here in order to go for the NBA, that is National Board of Accreditation, we have to make sure that all the course outcomes are well defined and it should satisfy the outcome based education. And so by adopting this outcome based education, it brings changes to the curriculum. How means by dynamically changing or adopting the requirements of stakeholders. So here different stakeholders are the students, parents, industry, personnel, and recruiters. So by taking the information from all these stakeholders, we are going to make the dynamic changes in the curriculum in order to reach the outcome-based education. So what is outcome-based engineering education means? So it is not what we teach, it is what we learn. And this outcome-based education is a learner-centric approach to tertiary education. And so this is the outcome-based education process, mainly focuses on what students can do or the qualities they should develop after the subject is taught, the course is taught. And so this OBE involves restructuring of curriculum and assessment and reporting practices in education to reflect the achievement of higher order learning and mastery rather than the accumulation of course credits. So both structures and curriculum are designed in order to achieve the capabilities or qualities. Now, so why we have to go for this outcome based education? And we need to see here what are the deficiencies in traditional education. So the deficiencies that are present in the traditional education are, in the traditional education, the students will learn just the material. That means the students will be just exam oriented or CGPA driven. So the students will be mainly concentrating on studying the material and just writing the exams and getting the CGPA value. And here students are not compulsory prepared to work for the prepare for the workforce. That means here these are all the drawbacks that are available in the traditional education. So here lack of emphasis on soft skills needed in the jobs. So in order to go for the jobs, the soft skills required are here communication skills, interpersonal skills, analytical skills, working attitude. So all these are different things where the students are lagging during this traditional education. Now, so here in order to answer all those drawbacks, OBE is following the key questions like, first, before designing the curriculum, we should first see what do we want the students to have or be able to do. And next we have to see how can we help the students in order to achieve that, and how will we know whether the students have achieved it or not, and how to close the loop for the further improvement. So for the further improvement, compulsory we need to assess this continuous quality improvement. And so what are the main benefits of this outcome based education means? So the more dedicated and coherent curriculum can be designed so that the graduates will be more relevant to the industry and other stakeholders. They will be adopted for the workforce. And here, with the outcome-based education process, the continuous quality improvement can be done, and all the COs, PSOs and all will be assessed for the further improvement. And so, implementing this outcome-based education, what are the expectations that we do from the students? So the expectations that we do from the students are, the students will be expected to be able to do more challenging tasks, just other than memorizing and reproducing what we have taught. So based on this outcome-based education, the students will be able to do the challenging tasks. And another one is students will be able to write the project proposals, complete their project, and different case studies can be analyzed. And based on that, they can give different presentations, and they can show their ability in the thinking process. They will be able to question, do research, and make decisions based on findings. And with the outcome-based education, the students will be more creative and able to analyze and synthesize the information. And the students will be able to plan and organize tasks. So able to work in the teams as well as community or in the entrepreneurial service teams to propose solutions to the problems and market their solutions. So all these are different things that we can expect from the students if this outcome-based education process is implemented. And so coming to the traditional education process, and if we see this traditional education process, we can understand what is the drawback in the traditional education process and how it can overcome by implementing the outcome-based education process. So if we see this traditional education process, so this technique will mainly focus on the input and process. So this method will not concentrate on the result. So it mainly concentrates on the input and process. So here what are all the inputs means that will be given. The input will be from the teaching staff, curriculum, labs and other resources. And the process that we are doing is how the teaching and learning methodology is applied here. So here based on these two factors, some parameters like assessment will be done with the help of this input and process, mainly on this exams, tests that we are conducting, assignments. Okay. So based on all these, if it is a traditional education process, since it is concentrating only on input and process, just the student will be graduated. So that is the main drawback. That means we are not going to analyze the result, that is output. And this can be overcome with the help of this outcome-based education process. That is here, this outcome-based education process, mainly it will concentrate not only on input and process, but it also includes measuring the output, that is outcome. So if you see here, it concentrates input and process. Along with that, the outcome can be measured. So here how we are going to measure the outcome means with the help of the short-term and long-term goals. So here this input process, students at the graduation, the things what we are taking from the stakeholders will be, the assessment will be done, that is input, or the process based on these two, the assessment will be done by exams, tests or assignments. The teaching and learning process may be by the teaching staff, lecture material that we are providing, and it also depends on the result and student capabilities. And so because of this short term and long term goals, not only these two, the more thinking and analytical parameters can be improved by the student. And here this stakeholders, from the stakeholders we are going to take feedback. It may be from the industry persons or alumni or other stakeholders, and by taking all these we are going to improve the outcome based education with the help of one step which is called CQI, that is continuous quality improvement. Okay. So here short term goals means the outcome can be measured when the at least at the end of the course, but whereas here long term goals means after 4 to 5 years of graduation. So that is why this PEOs are called long term goals, because they will be measured after 4 to 5 years of graduation. And here this program and subject outcomes, that is COs, and all will be called this short term goals. Why? Because they can be measured within 4 to 5 years of graduation. And what are different outcomes of OBE means? So here first we have to consider the course outcomes, next program outcomes. So this course outcomes and program outcomes are called short term outcomes. Why? Because they can be achieved within 4 to 5 years of graduation. Whereas this PEOs, that is program educational objectives, and vision and mission of the institute, they are called long term outcomes. Why? Because they can be achieved after 4 to 5 years of graduation. And so as we have seen, continuous quality improvement. Okay. So if the outcome is not properly done, we are going to change the curriculum dynamically by assessment, analysis and continuous quality improvement. So what we are going to assess and analyze and make the continuous quality improvement means, we are going to look at this learning outcomes of the each subject and program outcomes and also program objectives. Okay. So how all these three will be assessed and analyzed, and dynamic changes in the curriculum and all will be done means with the help of taking input from the stakeholders. And so what the steps this continuous quality improvement is having means, so say what we want, do what we say, prove it and improve it. So these are the 4 important steps that we have to do in order to make the continuous quality improvement. And so in the outcome based education, first we have to see is course content, how the course curriculum should be designed. So what should be present in the course content? So first thing, reviewing the course content. So we have to prepare the course content such that it has to satisfy the learning outcomes, and it should include the industrial needs, and it should also include the job specifications. That means, so based on all these parameters, we have to include the content in the curriculum, in the course. And after having all the content in the course based on all these aspects, next what we have to do is, we have to make the teaching and learning methods improved. Okay. So in order to improve this teaching and learning methods, we have to introduce the innovative and flexible teaching learning methodologies in order to develop this PEOs and POs in students. And so after this teaching and learning methodologies, next we have to see how the assessment should be done. So in order to do this assessment, what are different evaluation tools we are using? So introducing variety of assessment and evaluation tools in order to measure this PEO and PO. And the fourth step is here, data and evidence collection. So in order to improve this PEOs, POs and all, we have to take the evidence that involves and achievement of the PEO and PO should be done. So that is, modification should be done by taking the evidence from the stakeholders. And so after doing that and taking all the inputs, next, in order to close the loop, we have to make this continuous quality improvement. So these are all the different steps we have to follow to achieve the outcome-based education. So here are the different OBE assessment methods. So one is direct, another one is indirect. So how the direct assessment will be done means, with the help of, considering here the exams, assignments, tests and quizzes conducted for the students. And also it includes final year projects, laboratory, exit interview. So based on all these parameters, the direct assessment will be done. And so considering this parameters like industrial training, exit surveys, course surveys, so considering all these, the indirect assessment will be done. So in order to make the outcome based education assessment, so we should consider both direct and indirect. And so next we should know what is meant by Bloom's taxonomy. So this is the global language for education, and this Bloom's taxonomy should be used in order to write the course outcomes. So this Bloom's taxonomy, totally it consists of different levels. So each level is having its own action verbs. So based on taking all these action verbs of each level, we have to write the course outcomes. And so this is the Bloom's taxonomy. It is having 6 levels totally. So in the basic level is here, remember, that is first level. So in the remember stage, what the student will be able to do means recall the facts and basic concepts. And here second level is understand. So in this level, the student can explain the ideas or concepts. And the third level is apply. So after understanding all the concepts by the student, they will use that particular information in the new situations. And next level is here analyze. And the student will be able to draw the connections among ideas. And here the fifth level is evaluate. That means justify a stand or decision. That means they have to defend their work. And in the sixth stage, it is create. So based on the advantages and disadvantages, considering all these parameters, they have to remodify the design, like producing a new or original work. So all these are the 6 levels that are present in the Bloom's taxonomy. So each level is having its own action verbs. So considering the action verbs, we have to write the course outcomes. So first level of the Bloom's taxonomy is remember. So the first students need to remember the information provided to them. After remembering, they have to understand that in order to explain the ideas and concepts to others. After that, they have to apply the information what they have understood in the new ways. Okay. So by considering all the previous material that has provided, they have to apply the concepts in order to develop the idea. And after applying, the next level is analyzing. It asks the student to examine the information in the new way, different ways or different techniques that can be applied in order to modify that particular application. And next one is here evaluation. So evaluation means, so in this stage, the student has to defend or determine the work that is done by them. So considering all these advantages and disadvantages, the final step that they have to do is create a new product. So all these are the steps that are, or levels that are available in the Bloom's taxonomy. So by using the action verbs that are present in each level of Bloom's taxonomy, we have to write the course outcomes. And so considering that Bloom's taxonomy, and next we have to consider this PEOs, that is program educational objectives. So this program educational objectives will be developed by the head of the department by consulting with the faculty members. So PEOs means it is the promise given by the department to the students about what they will achieve once they join this program. And so these PEOs are called long-term goals. Why? Because they will be achieved after 4 to 5 years of graduation. And we have to see that while writing these PEOs, they should be written in the simple manner. Why? Because these PEOs will be written by the students who wants to join the course. And coming to POs, that is program outcomes, this POs will be provided by the NBA. And the POs, if you see, the POs should be specific, measurable and achievable. So NBA has provided the 12 POs. So technically among these 12, 5 POs will be related to technical subjects. And next is here PSOs, that is program specific outcomes. So these program specific outcomes are the statements that describe what the graduates of specific engineering program should be able to. So these PSOs will differ from department to department. Now, coming to COs, that is course outcomes. So this course outcomes we have to write by considering the Bloom's taxonomy levels and the action verbs that are present in that each level. So while writing the course outcomes, we have to use the statement like what students are expected to learn in the course. Okay. So based on this, we have to frame the course outcome. So when creating the course outcome, we have to see that the outcome should be clearly stating what the students will do or produce after learning that particular topic or course. And course outcome describe what the faculty hopes to successfully achieve in offering that particular course to the students. So based on all these parameters, the CO should be written. Now, how to develop this course outcomes for each course means, so we can write the course outcomes, number of course outcomes, 8 to 12 course outcomes can be written. And while writing the course statement, see that it should focus from the student point of view. It is not faculty centric or instructor centric. And focus on the learning that results from the course rather than describing what we are learning in the course. That means we have to see the output once if that particular course is introduced to the students. And coming to the microprocess and interfacing subject. So based on the syllabus, we have developed this course objectives. So in the syllabus, we are learning about the basic microprocessor, that is 8086, and advanced microprocess also we are learning. And after that, we are going for microcontroller. And after learning all the architectures and features, next we have studied what are different peripheral devices that we are using and how we are interfacing that peripheral devices to microprocessors or microcontrollers. So based on all these concepts, how we are going to develop an application. So we are also learning here the instruction set and addressing modes of that particular target processor, so that we are able to write the assembly level language programs. So keeping that in mind, here what is the main objectives of the course means, the student will try to learn the architecture and operation of microprocessor and microcontroller. That means here 8086 advanced process and 8051 microcontroller. And the student will try to learn the programming and interfacing of Intel microprocessor and microcontrollers in order to design a processor and controller based circuits. That means here we have to say how to interface different peripherals like stepper motor or ADC, DAC to microprocessor or microcontroller, and how it should be operated by writing the assembly level language programs, how they can be configured. And after doing all this, the third one is in which areas of application all these concepts can be used. Like the applications of microprocessor and microcontroller can be done in the field of communication, electronic equipment, control systems, consumer electronics, industry, and other real-time systems. So these are the course objectives of the subject microprocessor and interfacing. And so coming to the course outcome. So if once this course is offered for the students, what the students can be able to do. So here the student can be able to outline the functional components of 8085, 8086 and 8051 microcontrollers and study their functionality. So they can know what are the features, how the architecture will be, how about the function of each block. So everything can be understood. Okay. So that is why this comes under the understand level. So just they are understanding the features, architectures and operation. And coming to the CO2, it is illustrate the organization of registers and memory in 8086 for programming and memory allocation within processor. Okay. So here after describing the features and functional units that are present, next we have to say how many number of registers are there. Okay. And how to interface memory to 8086 or 8051. So we have to next understand all these concepts that are present in the architectures of microprocessor or microcontroller. So here the level is understand. And coming to here CO3. So here CO3 means explain the instruction fetch, decode and execute cycle for understanding the internal operation. That means if you go for the basic microprocessor or basic microcontroller, that is 8086 or 8051, how this fetching, decoding and execution cycle is performed. That means some will be having pipelining architectures, and if you go for the Pentium process, it will be done with the help of branch prediction. Okay, so that concepts should be understood. And coming to CO4, it is explain various addressing modes and instruction set of target microprocessor and microcontroller, which are useful for writing the assembly level language programs. Okay, so that means here in order to write the assembly level language programs, we should first learn about various addressing modes and instruction set. We have to understand the operation of each instruction, and then we have to write the assembly level language program. So understanding this instruction set and addressing modes, we have to write the assembly level language programs. So that is why it comes under understand level. And coming to CO5, so distinguish between minimum mode and maximum mode operation for analyzing the operation of 8086 microprocessor with the timing diagrams. So here two modes of operation in 8086, one is minimum mode, another one is maximum mode. So minimum mode and maximum mode operation can be explained with the help of block diagrams. So that operation we have to analyze the operation by drawing the timing diagrams. So with the help of timing diagrams, we can analyze how the operation is performed in minimum mode and maximum mode. And coming to CO6, illustrate the functionality of various types of interrupts and their structure. For controlling the processor or controller and program execution flow by using programmable interrupt controller. So here we have to understand how many types of interrupts are there, and what about the interrupt structure of particular target microprocessor or microcontroller. If any interrupt comes, how the microprocessor is going to handle that interrupt. If more number of interrupts comes, how this programmable interrupt controller, that is PIC8259, is going to operate. So we have to understand all these concepts when interrupt occurs and how interrupt handling mechanism is done. And coming to CO7, develop address decoding schemes for the microprocessor or microcontroller, memory map, and using memory modules and logic components like decoder and tri-state buffer. So here we will learn what is memory, what are different modules we can use in order to interface memory, that is a decoder and tri-state buffers. So understanding all these, we have to apply the concept how to interface this memories to 8086 microprocessor and how to do the memory mapping. Next, coming to CO8, here demonstrate the internal architecture and various modes of operation of devices used for interfacing memory and I/O devices with microprocessor. That means here, so here we can see the black color, all these indicates the verbs, action verbs that are present in the Bloom's taxonomy. And here we can see in two colors the CO is written. So one representing the behavioral and another one representing the result evidence. And so CO9, choose an appropriate data transfer scheme and hardware to perform the serial data transfer among the devices. That means here we have to learn what is meant by serial communication. Okay. So here hardware means regarding USART 8251 IC, and what are the features of that, what is the function of the pins, okay, and what the function of all the blocks in the 8251 USART. So we have to understand all these and we have to apply all these concepts to interface this 8086 and 8251 in order to perform the communication between the two. And here CO10 outline the salient features of 80286, 386 and Pentium processor in relation with 8086 microprocessor. That means here the student will be able to learn or understand all the features of the advanced microprocessors, understand their architectures. And coming to CO11, illustrate the paging operation and the segmentation of advanced microprocessor for memory management. Okay. So in the advanced microprocessor like 80386, we have segmentation unit and paging unit. So with the help of this course outcome, the student will be able to understand what is the advantage of using this segmentation unit and paging unit in the advanced microprocessor like 80386 and how it is going to achieve the memory management. And coming to CO12, and build I/O systems utilizing different peripherals like general purpose I/O, building blocks, that is functional units that are present in 8051, and registers, serial data transfer, timers, interfacing, memory and I/O devices. So learning all these, we have to apply all these in the proper manner in order to build the input-output systems. The last one is develop the microprocessor and microcontroller applications alone or as a member in a team with necessary peripheral devices like ADC and DAC. So we have learned what is meant by peripheral and how many types of peripherals are there. We have to internally know the operation of each peripheral device. After learning, we have to apply all that concepts in order to build the applications regarding microprocessor and microcontroller. So these are all the 13 course outcomes for microprocessor and interfacing. So coming to this competency levels, course knowledge, and the number of course outcomes we have written based on this understand level, it is 8. Apply level, we have considered 4 outcomes, and analyze level, only 1 outcome. And so here there are different POs, that is program outcomes. So all these 12 program outcomes are given by the NBA. So for this is the program outcome given by the NBA. So the first program outcome, PO1, it is engineering knowledge related to, and based on this, apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, engineering fundamentals, and engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering problems. So here, this PO is related to engineering knowledge. So from this PO, here we have taken the number of vital features, totally 3. So here this is PO2, which is related to problem analysis. So identify, formulate and review research literature and analyze complex engineering problems, reaching the sustained conclusions using first principle of mathematics, natural sciences and engineering sciences. So this is PO2. So based on this PO2, here we have 10 vital features. And here PO3, it is related to design and development of solutions. So here from this statement of design and development of solutions, PO, so number of vital features here, it is considered 10. And here PO4, it is related to conduct investigation of complex problems. So for our subject, we are going to consider only PO1, 2 and 3. Why? Because we are learning only the simple concepts like 8086 and 8051. We are not going for ARM and all. So we are not going to make any investigations or solutions for the complex problems. So we will consider among these 12 only first 3 POs. So PO4, the number of vital features are totally 10. And PO5, it is regarding modern tool usage. So we are not learning any modern tool usage in the subject. So the number of vital features are here 1. So this PO5 is also not considered according to us in the subject. And PO6 is the engineer and society. It is having 5 vital features. And PO7, environment and sustainability. The number of vital features are 3. And next is here PO8. So here PO8 is related to ethics. So the number of vital features here we have considered is totally 3. And PO9, it is related to individual and teamwork. So here we are not doing any product development or any lab recording. So that is why this PO9 is also not considered. So the number of vital features are 12. And coming to PO10, it is communication. So we are not writing any documentation and all because it is not having any lab for this microprocessor interfacing. The number of vital features are 5. So coming to PO11, it is project management and finance. So the number of vital features are here 12. And PO12, it is project management and finance. Number of vital features are 8. So totally it is having 12 POs, but only first 5 POs are related to technical. So among that first 5 POs, based on the course content, we have considered only first 3. And so we have considered the vital features for each PO. So based on that vital features of PO, we are going to map it for the CO. CO will be mapped to that PO based on that vital feature. And program specific outcomes, these program specific outcomes will be different from each department. So this is microprocessor and interfacing. It is for information technology. So for that branch, these are all the program specific outcomes. That is design next generation computer systems, networking devices, search engines, soft computing and intelligent system, web browsers and knowledge discovery tools. So since here in order to have the next generation computer designing and all, they should know about the advanced process and they should know what is meant by processor and controller. So for our subject, among these 3 PSOs, we are considering this first PSO because the second one is it focus mainly on web applications, okay, emerging technologies and framework. And the third one is related to real world software using industry and standard tools, collaboration techniques with equipment to secure and succeed in first job upon graduation in IT industry. So out of these PSOs, we are considering only the first PSO. So here, out of 12 POs, we have considered here the first 3 POs. And these are the strengths that have been given. That is for engineering knowledge, PO1, 3 and PO2, 1 and PO3 also 1. So the proficiency assessed for all these 3 POs will be with the help of this SEE, CIE and AAT. And among the 3 PSOs based on the department, we are considering here only one PSO, first PSO, and the strength for that is 1. It will be assessed with AAT. And so this is the mapping of course outcomes to the achievement of program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So here for the subject we have written totally 13 course outcomes and these are the 12 POs and here these are the 3 PSOs. So out of the 3 PSOs only first PSO is used. So out of the 12 POs technically the first 3 POs are used. Okay. So based on the vital features that are present in the course outcome and program outcome, we have mapped each CO with particular PO. First we have to do the mapping in the table indicating the tick mark. After that we have to write the justification how the particular CO is mapped with that particular PO considering the number of vital features. After writing the justification using the vital features, we have to indicate how many number of key competencies in that PO are used. So similarly, for all the COs, how it is mapped to that particular PO, we have to write the justification. After writing the justification, we should, by using the key competencies, we have to write how many number of key competencies are used among n number of key competencies in that particular PO. So after writing all the justification for all the COs and POs regarding how they are mapped, in the next table, we are going to number the key competencies of each CO and PO. That means how many number of key competencies are used, we will write in that particular shell. And in the next table, we have to write the percentage of key competencies for CO, PO and PSO mapping. So we have to calculate the percentage. That means how many number of vital features we are used and how many number of total vital features are there. So considering these two, we have to take the average, and that average should be placed in this particular shell. Now, at the last, after calculating the percentage level, we have to go for the coarse articulation matrix. And to make this coarse articulation matrix, we have to number in the table as 0, 1, 2 and 3. So how we are going to allocate the strength for that percentage means? So if we are going to allocate 0, it means 0 or dash. If it is dash, it means that it is not mapped. And if the level you are going to give strength as 1 means it is called slightly mapped. If the strength is 2, it is called medium or moderate. If the strength is 3, we can call it as a high level. So how we are going to allocate the strength in that particular shell means based on the percentage, how much we got. So if the percentage level is between this 0 to 5%, it represents there is no correlation. So we have to indicate dash in that particular cell. If the percentage is between 5 to 40%, we have to indicate that as a low level by using the value 1 in that shell. If the percentage is between 40 to 60, it is called moderate. So in that we have to indicate the level 2. If the percentage lies in between 60 and 100, we have to consider it as a high level, and we have to represent the level as 3. So using this constraints, we are going to we are going to frame this coarse articulation matrix. So here if you see, these are the 13 course outcomes. So for PO1, all the course outcomes are having the strength 3. So the total here we are going to get 39. So after calculating the percentage, we are going to get the strength as 3. Okay. So this is how we have to frame the coarse articulation matrix for all the COs, POs and PSOs based on the percentage. Next. So assessment methodology is totally 2 methods we have to do. One is direct method, another one is indirect method. So in the direct method, we are going to assess with the help of CIE exams and SEE exams. And the CIE and SEE exams, mainly they will be assessed or they will be related to the 3 POs 1, 2 and 3. Okay. And also we are going to do AAT. So PSO1 we have considered for AAT assessment. So AAT comes under this, under AAT 5 minutes video and tech talk comes. So this 5-minute video and tech talk, they will be assessed with all the 3 POs and PSO1. And the tech talks also will be assessed with the help of PO1, 2, 3 and also PSO. So this is the direct method, and another assessment methodology is indirect method. So in the indirect method, we are going to take 2 feedbacks. One is here early semester feedback and another one is end semester OBE feedback. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.